This is my farm.
Don't come out here and tell me what I need.
I need solutions that work and market options that are worth my time.
Small town support that sees the bigger picture.
A global network that empowers us. A co-op that's there for us every day.
Thank you for joining us for our Agri-Pulse Washington Week in Review. I'm Spencer Chase, joined as always by Agri-Pulse Executive Editor Phil Brasher, discussing the week that was, agriculturally speaking, in Washington, D.C. We are, as you can see, once again coming to you from our own respective domiciles as social distancing continues in the nation's capital and throughout the country. But still some things that happened on some of the various webinars and phone calls and press conferences that have turned into doing ag journalism right now. A whole lot less actual event coverage and more staring at a computer screen, just how we like it. But some of the things that we want to summarize for you here this week and for today involve some questions about the implementation of that $2.2 trillion coronavirus recovery package that we saw come out of Congress here a couple weeks ago now. And first one, probably primarily being that we did see a little bit more clarity from the Trump administration in terms of their plans to distribute some of that $9.5 billion in funding targeted toward, but not specifically limited to livestock producers, specialty crops, local foods, et cetera. And Phil, we saw some commentary from both Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue and then Thursday night, President Trump himself about just kind of the administration's thinking on this.
Yeah, obviously we're looking at something coming in the next days, maybe a couple of weeks. Secretary Perdue said they wanted to put out the money sooner rather than later. House Ag Chairman Colin Peterson, who talked to Secretary Perdue a few days ago, said that it would be coming and those payments would be coming in the next couple of weeks. And the president said coming in the pretty near future. So, stay close, keep your tuned, stay tuned, because we should expect something fairly imminent. A lot of requests that they've gotten in though for this $9.5 billion plus. They have another $6 billion according to Secretary Perdue sitting in their account.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we've seen, and we've written a lot of these stories, and I don't think we've written up every letter that's gone to the Department of Agriculture in terms of recommendations for how they should spend this $9.5 billion, but we've gotten close to it, and a lot of folks, and there's a lot of industries that could make somewhat a legitimate economic claim that they could use all $9.5 billion based on the way the economics of their industry have worked out. So USDA does not have an easy set of decisions to make here.
Yeah, they're getting requests for a lot more than what they have to spend. I'll just give you a couple examples of groups that are specifically, or commodities specifically mentioned in the stimulus bill. The produce industry has asked for $5 billion in payments to growers and shippers to compensate them for the produce that they couldn't sell when the restaurants and hotels and food service shut down. You have the local ag systems groups that are advocating local agriculture. Again, specifically mentioned in the bill, they're asking for compensation for $1 billion in losses. So there you got $6 billion. And we haven't even talked about the beef cattle industry or the dairy industry are having big problems. And then there are other sectors as well, catfish, crawfish, just to name a couple that are in asking for assistance.
Yeah, so obviously a lot of folks looking for some level of support and assistance out of that $9.5 billion fund. And as we mentioned, the president saying, the help is going to the farmers in the very near future. I don't know what your definition is, Phil, of very near future. I don't know what the president's is, but as soon as we know something, you will as well, because obviously we'll be looking to write up that story quick, fast, and in a hurry for all of you looking for more information on that. But also want to touch on a couple of other issues before we let you go here, and that being something we've been following for a while, the Paycheck Protection Program, and specifically what that's going to mean for rural America. because this bill that we're talking about, this $2.2 trillion recovery package, included some forgivable loans for small businesses, for businesses looking to stem off the struggles of the coronavirus recovery. And Phil, we saw some clarity this week on what exactly those programs mean for rural America and farm country.
Well, this Paycheck Protection Program, these are these loans that if you get them, you use them to retain workers or rehire workers. They're basically, the loan basically turns into a grant. The idea is to keep the economy, keep businesses going. Farms are eligible. That was made clear this week by USDA and by the Small Business Administration. They put out some guidance that is very clear that farms are eligible. A Farm Credit Council or the Farm Credit System institutions are involved in processing applications, and so farmers are coming in the door, applying for this money. A lot of demand for it. $349 billion, but all the expectations are that that's not going to be enough. The Congress is going to have to come up with some more.
Mm-hmm. And we did see an attempt at coming up with some more here this week as Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell sought to add $250 billion to this program by unanimous consent, was blocked by the efforts, was blocked from doing that unanimously. And we've seen House Speaker Nancy Pelosi kind of roll out some of her thoughts on the subject as well. But Phil, can I ask you to pull out your crystal ball and just assess what should we be watching for in terms of negotiations between House and Senate Republicans and Democrats on another potential coronavirus recovery package?
Well, the Republicans just wanted to get an additional $250 billion for this program. And I think there's a lot of support on the Democratic side for putting more money into that program. No question about it. Everybody wants to support small business. Democrats have some other priorities that they want to get addressed, and they want Republicans to agree to putting money into them. One of them is a 15% increase in SNAP or food stamp benefits. They also want more money for healthcare providers. And one of the proposals Democrats had was to make agriculture eligible for some low interest, talking about like 3% interest, disaster loans that the Small Business Administration does as well. It's entirely separate from this forgivable loan program. That was another element in a Democratic proposal. So that's going to be, stay tuned as well. That's going to be negotiated. Congress is not scheduled to be back for another week. We'll see if they actually come back and how this actually gets processed. But definitely there's going to be more money put into these programs when all is said and done.
Yeah, so obviously something to watch there in terms of what that means for the broader overall programs as well as production agriculture specifically. But before we let you go, one more thing to mention: we had been following some things going on within sort of production agriculture as a whole, but some calls in the beef industry for an expanded investigation into what's going on with some of these pricing margins. In particular, some folks saying things look a lot like what we saw in August when we had a fire at a beef plant in Holcomb, Kansas. The USDA announcing this week that it will be expanding the investigation into that Kansas fire to also include some of the pricing practices being seen right now in the wake of the coronavirus. Obviously, that's something that is going to, be a sign of relief to a lot of folks within the beef industry. But we were also expecting the results of that USDA investigation at the end of 2019. Here we sit in April, and we don't have it yet. So obviously, the fact that they're investigating does not mean that we're going to see results anytime soon. Obviously, but the department is committing to look into that issue and continue to study it and study what that means for beef packers, beef producers, beef consumers, et cetera, et cetera. So obviously a lot more to come on that subject as we continue to watch that and a number of other things here on Agri-Pulse, watching all things coronavirus recovery and coronavirus implementation of that legislation. Quite a bit to keep us very busy these days, and quite a bit for you to stop by and read and watch and listen to on agripulse.com. But I think that's going to do it for this week. So for Phil Brasher, I'm Spencer Chase. Have a good one.